Summer lovin' had me a blast. Summer lovin', put it in my ass. Hello YouTube, it is your boy B3 back with another kicking B3 Reads! Today we're going to continue reading Monster Island by Wrath the Kitty on Wattpad. But first, what did you think of my little song at the beginning? If you would like to hear the full song, be sure to support us on Patreon. Whenever you see a song like that, there's a full version on Patreon, so be sure to check it out. But it's storming, so I figured this was a good time to do a B3 read, because what else am I going to do? Study? I really should be studying. Alright, let's get it started. This chapter is called The New Egg, and I'm predicting Manda will be in it, because there's actually a picture of Manda Neo on the thing. So here we go. It had taken Mothra a year and a half for her wounds to heal. Always getting wounded in this story. Mothra is always getting wounded in this story, dude. She had stayed in her own den for that time, and Godzilla was coming to her den as he normally would. But today was different. When he was almost to her cave, he heard loud, pain-filled chirping. It was coming from Mothra. Oh, she must be giving birth. He rushed into the den. There she was, laying in the nest Godzilla made for her, chirping her heart out. Godzilla rolled his eyes. Mothra, if you needed me, then you could have come to my den, not scream across the territory. What an idiot. She continued to chirp. Mothra, I'm right here. Mothra, calm down. She still chirped. Then he noticed that the fur on her head and wings was wet. What? Did you go for a swim? I thought that made your wings heavy and then you couldn't fly. She continued to chirp. God, what a fucking idiot. She's been pregnant for like 9 years. He should know this. Then he saw the problem. He could see just barely the egg coming out. He jumped back. Whoa, I'll be right back, okay? You stay here. Don't go anywhere, Godzilla said, running to the river. She'll be hungry after this, he thought. He jumped into the river. He saw many fish, probably because it was spring. He saw a humpback whale and swam after it. In the river? Humpback whale in a river? Also, I wanted to say this in other parts, but I didn't. This is supposed to be taking place in prehistoric time, because when in all the setup for this story, the author said that dinosaurs and stuff still roamed the earth, but kaiju were like a higher level of being. Well, if this is dinosaur times, why did just regular sea fish and mammals exist? They shouldn't have evolved yet. Give us some prehistoric ones. Have him eat a megalodon or a plesiosaur. In a few minutes it was in his jaws. He set it on the riverbank. About half an hour he had 3 humpback whales and 7 great white sharks and 2 dolphins. He carried them all back to Mothra expecting she would be finished, but when he entered her den arms full with fish, she was in the exact same state as when he left, only worse. She was bleeding. Are monsters supposed to bleed when they lay eggs? She shook her head, still chirping. Godzilla then began to worry. I'll get help. No, stay, please, she managed to say. God, this is just like when she was injured a few years ago, and instead of letting him go get help, she made him stay with her. I have to go get help, okay? I'll be fast, he said, running out of the den. He ran through the trees, getting cut by branches and twigs. He ran to Anguirus' den. Anguirus, Anguirus, help! Huh? What is it? Anguirus ran out to him. And there's no spaces, which I get is for effect. So I'm going to have to read it like this. Mother started laying her egg and she's bleeding and we have to help, he yelled. Godzilla, I can't understand you. Say it again. Mothra started laying her egg and she's bleeding and dying. You have to help, he said, trying to calm himself. Okay, I know someone who can help. Who, Godzilla said. Rodan's mother, Rodana. She knows about herbs and stuff. Let's go find her, Anguirus said. The two of them raced through the forest to Rodan's cave. They finally reached it. Godzilla burst in. Where's Rodana? He asked, breathing heavily. Rodal looked at him. She's out at the river. Why? Thanks. Godzilla left and went to Anguirus. She's at the river. Let's go. They ran to the river. Rodana was on the other side. Godzilla ran to the river's edge and jumped. He jumped in the river without getting a drop of water on him. Oh, he jumped the river without getting a drop of water on him. He landed beside Rodana. You have to come with me. Mothra's in trouble. Okay, I'll come, she said. Sorry. The 3 of them ran to Godzilla's den. Mothra had stopped chirping. I thought this was Mothra's den. Whatever. She didn't have the energy for it. Mothra, Godzilla yelled and ran to her side. He crouched beside her, his cheek on hers. Rodana walked up to her and examined her. This is odd. Monsters aren't supposed to bleed when laying eggs. Hold on a moment. She walked out of the den. Mothra watched her leave with pain-filled eyes. You're fine, Mothra. You're doing fine, Godzilla said softly. Rodana came back a few moments later with strange leaves in her arms. She gave them to Mothra and she ate them. Hours later, nothing good happened. I'm sorry. I'm afraid there's nothing I can do. Good luck, Rodana said, leaving. Godzilla grew angry. Wasn't there anyone on this island who knew how to do this? He didn't want to watch Mothra suffer. Mothra, he yelled. She looked up at him. I need you to push. That's what you haven't been doing. Okay? Push! Now! How does he know? Mothra lifted her head and the chirping began again. Godzilla, I see it, the egg! Godzilla nodded to him. That must be Anguirus talking. Mothra lifted her head higher and chirped louder. Godzilla, come look at this, Anguirus said. Godzilla shook his head and stayed by Mothra. After hours of this, they heard the egg hit the nest. Mothra didn't turn to look at it. Instead, her head collapsed onto the nest and her wings fell to the ground. She gasped for breath. Godzilla, come look at your egg, Anguirus said. Godzilla got up and looked at his egg. Eggs in the Godzilla family were tall. Eggs in the moth family were long. This egg was long, but Godzilla hadn't seen moth eggs. This one was long, very long. Wait, what does that mean? Tall or long? Wouldn't that just depend on which side the egg was laying on? I guess they mean like the kind of oval shape that Mothra's eggs are in the movies often, and Godzilla's shapes were more like a chicken egg. But Godzilla had seen moth eggs. This one was long, very long, longer than the moth's eggs. It's probably long because Mothra and Godzilla don't mate with each other. Moths and Godzillas don't mate with each other, Godzilla thought. Anguirus and Godzilla stayed with Mothra for the night. She was fast asleep. Hey, Anguirus, yeah? Do you and to make Mothra a new nest? This one is really bloody. Sure. Bad sentence. Godzilla and Anguirus carefully lifted Mothra off her nest. They picked up the egg and set it under her wing. They took the old nest and threw it out. They spent 2 hours gathering grass. They brought it all back and put it where the old nest was. They picked up Mothra and put her on the new nest. They put the egg back under her wing. Thank you, she said softly. You're welcome, he said, and laid beside her. I'm going back to my cave now. I'll come tomorrow, Anguirus said. Okay, bye. Anguirus left. Later. Godzilla opened his eyes and yawned. Then he remembered. He go up and lifted Mothra's wing. It's fine, Mothra said. Godzilla jumped and dropped her wing. I didn't know you were awake, he said. I am a very light sleeper. I can tell. How are you feeling? Sore, but better. That's good, Mothra. Do you know why our egg is so long? Yes, but I wanted to surprise you. Okay, surprise me now. We are going to have twins. What? Seriously? Yes, I have already decided their names. What are they? Well, I have names for them if they're both males. What are they? Batra and Mothra Leo. I knew those would be the names. I knew those would be the fucking names, dude. I'm not stupid. I know my lore, bitch. But those names don't go by the rules. Neither does mine. What do you mean? My name's still Mothra, and we've been mates for years. You know why? No. Why? Both of our names end with so we'd both be Godzilla. Oh, yeah. I saw you got fish yesterday. Where did they go? Oh, they're over here, rotting in the fucking corner. Jeez. He got the fish and brought them to her. Great, I'm starved. You must be. All the fish were gone in half an hour. I'll get more, Godzilla said. He decided to go to the ocean instead of the river. The ocean had more space. He swam under, then he saw it. It was a monster, a sea monster. It saw Godzilla and swam after him. He was so fast, Godzilla couldn't beat him. The monster swam and wrapped his body around him. This must be Manda. Constricting him. Godzilla opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Of course he was underwater. Godzilla managed to swim to the top. Help, he coughed. Help, he yelled louder. Mothra heard Godzilla yell. She left her nest and flew out of her cave. She listened. She heard him again and folded her wings back, flying as fast as the creature swam. Then she saw him, struggling in the water with something coiled around him. Godzilla, she yelled. She folded her wings and dived into the water. She grabbed the thing with her legs and tried to pull it. Her wings grew heavy and weighed her down. Now she held onto the creature for her life. If she let go, she would sink and drown. Wow, lots of help you are, Mothra. Damn. Soon Mothra was drowning and she was still holding onto the creature. She was running out of breath. Her sapphire eyes were now turning a dull blue. Enough, Godzilla roared and his eyes turned red. He jumped 100 feet out of the water, which once again, I mean, I guess that's a decent amount for kaiju. The creature still wrapped around him, and Mothra holding on to the creature, flapping her wings uselessly. Then they began to fall. Mothra let go and began to spin in the air, still flapping her wings. Godzilla fell, his back to the water. He found the thing's face and clawed its eyes. It roared and unwrapped itself. It straightened its body and dived into the water, while Godzilla and Mothra kept falling. Mothra, come over here. Godzilla moved his arms and got close to Mothra. He grabbed the tips of her wings and they both span. Spun? What is that word supposed to be? Mothra chirped loudly. They then hit water. Godzilla closed his eyes and floated to the top. He opened his eyes and shook his head. Where was Mothra? He looked around. She wasn't there. He went under. He saw her faint outline deep in the water. Then she disappeared. He swam as fast as he could, but he couldn't find her. He wouldn't give up. He swam, and the water turned dark. He couldn't even see his own hand. Then he saw something swimming up to him. It was the creature. Sorry I attacked you. My name's Manda. Are you looking for that moth? Godzilla nodded. I saw her sinking. Follow me, he said. His body glowed, allowing him to see about 20 feet, which isn't much for a kaiju. Once again, Godzilla followed Manda but had to hold onto his tail to keep up. Manda swam to the bottom. They didn't see Mothra. Over there, Manda said, and took off. Godzilla held onto his tail with both hands. Then he saw her. She was laying on her back. Manda wrapped his body around her and swam to the top. Godzilla still held onto his tail. Manda's pulling Godzilla's weight and Mothra's weight while being coiled around something? That doesn't seem correct. They finally reached the top. Manda laid her on the sand. He then pointed to the water and motioned for Godzilla to follow him. They both went under. Hey, put your hand on mine, Manda said, putting his fin out. Godzilla put his hand in his fin and it started glowing. Godzilla gasped. Then he noticed he just breathed underwater. Now you can breathe, talk, and breathe fire underwater. Fucking bullshit plot device power. Insane. Wouldn't it be easier to just have Manda go up on land and talk to Godzilla instead of this bullshit writing? Really, Godzilla said, then noticed he was talking underwater. Yes, just roar and I'll come. Good luck. He let go of Godzilla's hand and sped off. Why did Manda attack him in the first place? You gonna explain that to me? No one's gonna explain anything to me? Fuck it. Whatever. Godzilla swam to the top, then the beach. He sat beside Mothra. Mothra, wake up, please. She coughed and opened her eyes. Godzilla, I'm here, he said. Don't leave. I won't, I promise. She's always obsessed with him leaving her while she's injured. Maybe you should let him get help sometimes. The next chapter is called Biollante and Gigan, so I guess the Gigan Megaguirus stuff that we missed out on before is finally going to start showing up. Godzilla and Mothra had gone almost 6 years without interruptions. Their egg was fine. The shell was hard now, and they could feel the young monsters moving inside with they kept their hand or leg on it long enough. I think you mean when they kept their hand or leg on it long enough. But their happiness was brought to a halt when Anguirus came and told Godzilla where he needed to go. Godzilla? Just a second, he picked up a few stray rocks from the cave's ground. He had given Anguirus his den because he had moved into Mothra's. Okay, come in now. Anguirus walked in. He nodded to Mothra, who was laying in the nest, her wing over her egg. Yes, Godzilla asked. You have to go somewhere. Where? The mutant's territory. Biollante needs you again. Mothra narrowed her eyes and red dots started to form. Her antenna laid flat against her head. Why? She asked. I don't know. She just asked me to tell you, Godzilla. She said it was urgent. What could be so urgent that Godzilla would have to leave his mate, who is with an egg? She asked. I'll go, Godzilla said. What? Mothra's eyes widened and her head flung in Godzilla's direction. It might be important. Seeing what happened last time, it's probably not, Mothra growled. In case you missed a part, Godzilla had an affair with Biollante and he fucked her in the ass and got her pregnant. Maybe we'll get to see their kid. Plus, I've been needing to talk to her. I'm coming with you, she said. No, Mothra, you need to stay with the egg. I need to talk with her privately. I can see why. Mothra, he yelled. She was silent and looked at the ground. I mean, Mothra's feelings in this situation are understandable. Godzilla cheated on her ass. I'll go tomorrow. He looked at Mothra, who was staring at the ground with narrow eyes. No, I'll go today. Mothra's head shot up. No! Yes, I'd like to get this over with. Good. She will be happy, Anguirus said. I bet she is. She gets some action from Godzilla. One more word out of your mouth and you won't have a mouth, Godzilla yelled. Mothra looked down again. That's verbal abuse! Fuck, Godzilla, don't shout at her, you cheating bastard. Will you fly me there, he asked. She's too weak for that. She looked up at him. I need to stay with the egg, she mimicked his words. Will you? God, he's such a needy piece of shit. Fine, but if you mated with Biolante, here, learn the spell. I'm taking my egg and leaving, she said. Okay, thank you for telling me. Anguirus, will you guard me egg while Mothra's gone? The egg, I guess. Or my egg. Or our egg. Something. The word me is not correct. Yes, thank you. Let's go, Mothra. Okay. The whole way there, Godzilla thought of what he'd do or say to Biolante, but his thoughts were stopped when Mothra landed. Godzilla, yes, please, don't do what you did with her before. I won't. Promise me, you'll stay loyal to me. I promise. She rested her nose on his for a moment, then flapped her wings and flew higher. Godzilla watched her leave. All of a sudden, he felt like yelling for her to come back, but he held it in. He turned and walked through the green-aired jungle. He didn't even notice the stench. For some reason, he had a hollow feeling inside him. That's called guilt, you fucking piece of shit. He wanted to go back to Mothra. She was so far away from him. He kept walking. He finally reached Biolante's den. He put his head in, then climbed in. Biolante was sitting in the middle, her head on her still protruding stomach. He didn't know it, but mutants are pregnant 14 years, and their eggs hatch the day after they are laid. She raised her head at him. Then he saw it. She had a very deep cut on the red part of her stomach, and a long scratch going from the top of her cheek to the bottom jaw. Godzilla, is that you? Sorry, a feather just came out of this pillow, and I was very confused. Then he saw her eye. It had a long scratch, and half of it was gone. Her eyes were unusually red, but this one was white. Well, half of it. The other half was nowhere to be found. Yes, Biolante, it's me. Please, come here, her voice was pleading. He came to her. He rested his head on her shoulder. She put her head on his and began to cry. I was attacked last night. Something came up and scratched my stomach. When I got back in here, it wasn't bleeding blood. The stuff that's in the egg was coming out. I think he killed my egg. Fuck. You just got abortions! So many abortions! It's okay, Biolante. I'm sure that he couldn't finish the sentence. He wasn't sure her egg was alive. I know you're in love with that moth, but I want you to know, I love you, Godzilla. You can't love him. This is the third time you're meeting him. The first time, you just fucked him for no reason. The second time, he just dragged Mothra off you when she was attacking you. And this third time, I think you're just feeling vulnerable and weak, so you're latching on to him. Godzilla did have feelings for her. Maybe as much as he did for Mothra. How? How, though? I'm sorry that I came between you and the moth. I didn't mean to. You didn't. She did. She lifted her head up suddenly and stared at the entrance. Go to the end of my cave. Hide behind the rocks. Now, she whispered. Godzilla ran from her and hid behind a rock. Biolante stood in front of the rock he was hiding behind. Then someone came into the cave. Biolante, what a pleasure to see you, it said. Gigan, what are you doing here? She hissed. And then there's a note that says Gigan's in the picture, because there was a picture of Gigan at the very top of this, because the author doesn't want to describe her characters. Just lazy. I just want to see how you're doing. No harm, he said, grinning. She stared at him. He began to walk to the rocks. What's behind there? Whew. Wait, how did he even know she was injured? He probably did it. That's what I've been assuming from the start. She struck out with one of her vines, and it bit him in the shoulder. Oh, there must be something valuable back there. An egg, maybe? Leave, Gigan, I command you. Isn't he an alien? He wouldn't be one of your subjects. Wait, it can't be an egg. You're still pregnant. You're not my queen. What? Oh, yeah, you're not my queen. Because, once again, he's an alien. You're in my territory, so I am your queen. I did some nice damage, didn't I? What? Godzilla gasped quietly. Gigan did this to her? God, this is awful ass writing. Yes, I attacked you last night. I see I didn't do enough to kill you. Gigan, why would you want to kill me? She sounded scared. So King Ghidorah could have this territory and fix it. I can see stupid Godzilla won't do anything. Godzilla bared his teeth. Godzilla is the greatest king you'll ever know! She struck out her vine, hoping to constrict him. Whoop! Gucci gang! She sliced her vine off with the blade at the end of his arm. Biollante bared her teeth. She refused to scream in pain. Hell yeah. That's badass. She opened her mouth and brought all her teeth on him. He lifted his arm and it went right through Biollante's jaws. She bit down on his arm anyway. Half of his blade stuck out of Biollante's chopped jaw. She picked up Gigan and shook him like a baby you want to shut the hell up. Godzilla took his other blade and stabbed her cheek multiple times. Oh, sorry, Gigan took his other blade and stabbed her cheek multiple times. She shook him harder. Godzilla is doing nothing, by the way. He stabbed right beneath her eye and brought his blade down her skin. She threw him against the cave wall. He turned around and jumped off the wall, both his blades pointed at her head. His blades landed in her forehead and he hung there for a few moments. She shook him off. He landed on his feet. He brought his blade up and brought it down on one of her main vines she used to walk. It fell to the ground. She growled and opened her mouth again. Gigan raised his blades again, but instead of stabbing her jaw, he scratched the roof of her mouth. Many of her teeth fell out. She thrust her head up. Her eye, usually an orange-red, was now blood-red. Gigan ran up to her and lifted his blade. She tried to block him with one of her vines, but it wasn't there. He dug his blade into the red part of her stomach and brought it down. He jumped back. Blood poured from her wound. Then the blood stopped for a second. Gigan grinned. Her unlaid egg fell from her wound and shattered on the ground. In the middle of all the pieces lay a dead monster that looked like Godzilla. It was female. Godzilla's eyes brimmed with tears at the sight of his dead daughter, who hadn't even gotten a chance to live. Dude, that's crazy! Holy fucking cockshit! He closed his eyes and lowered his head. Biollante's eyes widened and she thrust her head up, letting out a grief-stricken roar. I'm assuming the monster was maybe like Zilla or something, since they don't want to create any more new kaiju, and the new kaiju they did create just had basically the same names and looks as other kaiju. Biollante's eyes widened and she thrust her head up, letting out a grief-stricken roar. Gigan grinned and sliced her neck. Her mouth held open. Once again, Godzilla is doing nothing. But no sound came from it. Her eye widened and blood dripped from her mouth. Her body came crashing down. She laid on her stomach and gasped for breath. I'm done here. I'll tell King Ghidorah the news. I'll be back. Why back? Why? Gigan laughed and climbed from the den. Godzilla waited a few moments before coming back out. He ran to Biollante like a coward! He sat beside her, picked her head up, and put it in his lap, which instantly filled with blood. She breathed heavily. Biollante, I'm sorry. Please, don't talk, he swallowed hard. She looked up at him, her eyes filled with tears. Give it time. You'll heal. You'll see. Tears slid from her eye. Don't let it kill you, he swallowed, trying to keep the tears in. She wrapped one of her vines around his hand. He squeezed it tightly. Close your eyes. She closed her eyes. It's not the end. She squeezed his hand tighter. He inhaled loudly. You'll pull through. You make my death worthwhile, she said quietly. That doesn't make any fucking sense. Shh, he soothed her. She stared into his eyes. It's okay, Biollante. Love. Ooh, steamy! Her gaze floated off of him to the end of the cave. She exhaled loudly and her head became heavy. Tears fell from Godzilla's eyes onto Biollante's blood-stained skin. It's not the end. Just give it time. You'll heal. He rested her muzzle beside her ear. Don't let it kill you, he whispered, but it was too late. He picked up her head and got up. He set it very carefully down on the ground. He rubbed her head with his tail. He walked over to his dead daughter and picked her up. Wow. Dark. He picked up one of her vines, I guess the word one is missing, and set his daughter under it. They could be together now. He walked to the entrance and looked back. Biollante laid on her stomach, and her daughter lay under her vine. A single tear fell from his eye, and he climbed out of the den. He ran as fast as he could. It started to rain. He kept running. Thunder boomed loudly, and lightning flashed in his eyes. He stopped and clenched his fist. He raised his hand and roared as loud as he could. His roar turned to flames. He brought down his head and collapsed to his knees. Tears streamed from his eyes. He bared his teeth, and the salty taste of tears flooded his tongue. That's a relatively good description. Good job. Good job. He got up and ran. He ran as fast as he could. Through the mutants' territory. Through the Earth Defenders' territory. He kept running until he reached Mothra's den. He stood in the entrance. Mothra lifted her head. Godzilla, I will avenge her. I'll make that promise, and I'll keep it. Until my death. So I guess he's going to war with the aliens. Wow. Wow. The next episode is called Comodothrax, but there's a picture of Titanosaurus up at the top. Oh, and then there's an apology at the beginning. Hey guys, I had a ton of trouble with Comodothrax's name. You might see a few Comodothraxes or Comodithraxes. Sorry. So they're already apologizing for not spelling it the same way consistently. Very unprofessional. We are going to go ahead and read this chapter just because I feel like it. Mothra stared at him. She couldn't see him, only his figure. She could hear the rain pouring down. Godzilla, avenge who? And come inside. It's raining. Godzilla walked in, shivering. Who brought you home? I ran. What? Through this weather? Come here. He walked over to her. She flapped her wings and hovered over the nest and motioned for Godzilla to lay down. He walked into the nest and curled up and began to cry softly. Mothra saw this and got back to the nest and covered Godzilla with her warm wing. Godzilla uncurled himself and curled around Mothra. Please, tell me what happened. Godzilla smiled hard. When I went into Biolante's den, she had been blinded in one eye. She had a long scratch on her face and a deep cut on her stomach. She asked if it was me, and I said yes. I went over to comfort her because she said she was attacked, and she thought the egg had been damaged. Mothra nodded. She knew how mutants laid their eggs. Go on. Then she heard someone. She told me to hide, and I did, but I could see what was going on. A monster from the aliens called Gigan came. He started talking to her and coming near the rocks. Biolante attacked him, but he cut off one of her vines. Then he stabbed the roof of her mouth. When she tried to hurt him with her vine, before he cut that off too, and it was one of her walking vines. This is a little too much detail. Then he sliced open her stomach, and her egg fell out and shattered. When she was roaring, her sliced neck, and she fell. That's a bad sentence. He said, my work here is done. I will tell King Ghidorah the news. I'll be back. I went to Biolante and put her head in my lap, and she died there. I put her daughter under her vine and ran back home. Mothra's antennas were lowered, and she looked down. That's terrible. And I promise that I will avenge her. I will help. I don't care what you say. I want to help her. But I thought you hated her. No, only for that moment when we fought, but I don't think I'll ever forgive myself for attacking her. Once again, the gas in the mutant territory makes you aggressive, for one thing. Godzilla should explain that to her, which might give her some peace of mind. He knows that information, but he hasn't told her. 2, it's kind of understandable, but 3, it's kind of big of her to admit that she was wrong to attack Biolante, because Biolante didn't know that Godzilla was mating with anybody. Once again, it's storming. I want to go back and bury her. Not tonight, it's raining and cold. Tomorrow, and I'll go with you. You will? I'm glad. I'm afraid of what I'll find there. Mutants aren't as neat as us. I don't know what they'll do without a queen. I don't want to find out either, but we still have to go. You don't have to go. If you are attacked, then you will be outnumbered. I will come. Thank you. He put his head under hers and fell asleep. He should take Anguirus. Both the parents of these twins shouldn't put themselves in danger. Godzilla should go, and he should take Anguirus, maybe one other monster. Cunt! Godzilla opened his eyes. He was stiff and sore, but thanks to Mothra he was warm. He slid his head from under hers and got up. She lifted her head and yawned. Will we go now? Yes. Who will watch our egg? Anguirus? Rodana? Anguirus, stay here. I'll get him. She nodded. Godzilla ran out of the den, slipped, and landed on his back. He growled and got up. It was very muddy and wet. He ran anyways. When he got to Anguirus' den, he was sleeping. Anguirus, get up, you loser, cunt! He doesn't really say that. He just says, Anguirus, get up! He lifted his head suddenly. What? Why? I'm coming. He got up and lumbered outside. Yes? I need you to watch the egg while Mothra and I are away. Fine. Let's go. The two of them ran back to Mothra's den. She was out of the nest, stretching her wings. You ready? Godzilla asked. She nodded. Anguirus laid in the nest and curled his tail around the egg. Mothra and Godzilla walked outside. Mothra grabbed Godzilla's back and took off. When they got into the mutants' territory, they were afraid of what they found. A lot of it was burned. The jungle was nothing but ash, and instead of green air, the air was blue. Godzilla felt fear stir in him. Remember, the blue gas comes out of mutants when they are afraid. I want to say this about this author. They aren't a good speller. They over-explain some things, under-explain other things, but they've done a pretty good job of building this world. I'll give them that. Come on, he motioned to Mothra and began to run. Mothra flew behind. They reached Biolante's den. They saw a lot of small scratch marks. Godzilla jumped in. There were small scratch marks on the inside of the entrance. He looked to the back of the den. Biolante was still there. Her eyes were black, and her usually green skin was brown, like dead grass, and the tips of her vines were curled. Then he saw it. One of her vines was up, like something moved it, and his daughter was gone. Godzilla jumped and ran over to where she used to be. He sniffed around, getting her scent. Whoever took her dragged her out of the den. He followed the scent trail. She's probably alive. That's wild. It led him to a rock with a little cave under it. He carefully picked it. He couldn't believe what he saw. It was his daughter, and she looked back at him. She was alive. He couldn't believe it. Wow, his illegitimate child is alive. That's not going to cause any problems at all. Oh, jeez. Mothra! She didn't answer. He looked back. She was staring at another monster who was a few feet away. Godzilla grew angry and motioned for Mothra to hover behind him. He was prepared to kill to protect his daughter. You take one step closer and I swear I will rip you to shreds, Godzilla growled. Her name is Komodothrax, the monster said. Oh, Komodothrax is his daughter. Okay. I got it. When they said that looked like Godzilla but feminine, I was thinking like Zilla. Komodothrax doesn't really look like Godzilla, though. What? Biolante told me she would name her Komodothrax when she hatched. How do you know? Godzilla still kept his teeth bared. I'm Biolante's deputy, or I was. Who are you? Titanosaurus, he said, in the picture. Oh, in the picture, because there's a picture of Titanosaurus, because the author can't be bothered to describe characters. Godzilla knew his name. He wasn't lying. His eyes turned green again, and he stopped baring his teeth. Do you know what happened? Yes. Gigan came and told us all to come. He told us Biolante had died and King Ghidorah was coming to be the king. We told him we had queens first, not kings. He told us to be silent and flamed at a monster called Crystalak. He died right then. King Ghidorah came and burned the place. The mutants' anger soon turned to fear. The mutants scattered and ran to their dens. The ones that didn't get to their dens soon enough were caught by Ghidorah and turned into slaves. Most of them were hatchlings who had gotten separated from their mothers or were mourning their mothers who had been trampled and killed by the mutants. The others were the brave ones who tried to save the hatchlings. I went to Biolante's den to see what she had to say. I didn't believe Gigan when he said she had died, but I found her. Her neck had a long, deep cut, and there was dried blood around her, probably from a wound on her front side. I also found a shattered egg on the ground, but the hatchling was under Biolante's vine, crying loudly. I took Komodothrax and hid her under that rock. I couldn't let her be stolen by Ghidorah. I wanted to find her father. Biolante told me he was a great monster, very strong. I've been taking care of her since last night. I wouldn't have attacked you if I didn't know you were King Godzilla. Thank you for taking care of my daughter. I owe you. What? You're her father? But isn't she your mate? He pointed at Mothra. Yes, it happened a while ago. We don't need to talk about it. Mothra rolled her eyes. By the way, Mothra has compound eyes and would not be able to roll her eyes. Titanosaurus nodded and carefully picked up Komodothrax and put her in Godzilla's arms. She squirmed in Titanosaurus' arms, but was calm in Godzilla's. Thank you, Godzilla said. Come on, Mothra, we are leaving. I'll be back to win back this territory, I promise. Titanosaurus was silent for a moment. Wait, Godzilla looked back. Yes? I want to watch her grow up. May I come with you? Titanosaurus isn't really a mutant, though, is he? Isn't Titanosaurus an Earth monster? I guess that's why he's headed to the Earth Defender Kingdom. But you're a mutant. I don't think that... Wait. When you were telling me your story, your eyes turned red. Mutants' eyes don't change color. They let off different colored air. Are you part Earth Defender? Okay, so I guess I accidentally called that. Full Earth Defender. My parents were born there, but were chased off. They came to the mutants because they hated the aliens. I can see why, he mumbled to himself. Yes, you can come. Mothra, will you carry him? I know the way back. Yes, she said. Wait, fly? He asked. Mothra smiled, picked him up, and took off. He screamed loudly. Godzilla laughed and ran to the Earth Defender territory. Gucci Gang. Godzilla walked into Mothra's den. Some part of the way, Komodothrax had fallen asleep. Mothra was in her nest, her head down, as if she were asleep, but her eyes were open. Titanosaurus was asleep in the back of the cave. His tail curled around his nose. Godzilla walked to Mothra. She lifted her wing and motioned for Godzilla to put Komodo Thrax down. They're going to have 3 kids. Fuck. He sat her beside the egg. She yawned and opened her eyes. They were bright green. She closed them again and rolled over. Mothra laid her wing on top of her. We can call her Como for short, Mothra said. No, she reminds me of those tiny lizards, Komodo dragons. Komodo, I like that. Komodo, Godzilla said, and laid behind Mothra. Komodo, he whispered. The author didn't want to keep spelling her name. Which is fine, I actually completely understand that. Godzilla thrust his head when something bumped into his nose. He looked down. It was his egg. A second later, Komodo jumped from underneath Mothra's wing onto the egg. She bit it and clawed it. Komodo, Godzilla yelled and picked her up from the skin on her neck. Oh, come on, Godzilla, let her play, Mothra said, lifting her head. Let her play? She was... That's her half-brothers. Godzilla looked down. There it was. A long crack right in the middle. Oh, Komodo squirmed and pointed down at the egg. Godzilla set Komodo down and she ran and hid underneath Mothra's wing. No, Godzilla mumbled. What? Mothra asked. Our egg, it's cracked. What? Mothra's eyes widened. No, this can't be. He closed his eyes and rested his head on the egg. Then he felt something poking his cheek. He lifted his head. He grinned. It wasn't cracked. It was hatching. Durr! Sorry. She grasped the egg and shook it. She gasped. The egg cracked. This is not written well. Then a huge piece flew from the right side, and out inched a larva. He had beautiful green eyes, like Komodo. I guess that's Leo. He looked at the left side. Wasn't there supposed to be a twin? He waited and waited. Nothing happened. His name will be Mothra Leo, he told Mothra. She nodded and looked at the egg puzzled. I swear there's a twin. She shook her head. Let's go show Anguirus, Komodo, and Leo. Why don't you look in the open egg? Godzilla said. Then he remembered Titanosaurus. He walked over to him and poked him. Hey, wake up. His eyes opened slowly. What? What happened? Is that a larva? Yes, that's my new son. He just hatched. His name is Mothra Leo. Oh, do I have to get up? No, you can stay. Thanks. He put his head back down and fell asleep. Why bother waking him then? Godzilla, Mothra, Leo, and Komodo walked out. Komodo couldn't walk on her hind legs, which was weird. Both Biollante and Godzilla didn't walk on all fours. They all walked to Anguirus' den. Anguirus was sleeping but lifted his head when he saw them. Whoa, your egg hatched. Wait, there's 2? They look nothing alike. This is Leo, this is Komodo. Biollante is her mother. Oh, why'd you take her in? Can't Biollante take care of her? She's dead. What a poorly informed beta. What? How? Gigan killed her. Oh, I'm sorry. We came to show you our... Mothra was interrupted. Titanosaurus ran in, yelling Godzilla's name. What? Godzilla asked. Your egg, it's hatching. What? It must be twins. Come on. He ran back to the den. Come on, guys. Anguirus, you can come. The 5 of them ran, having to stop so Komodo and Leo could catch up. They arrived just in time. The second they stepped into the left side of the egg broke off and another larva inched out. Batra, Mothra exclaimed. Then she gasped. Godzilla looked at him. He looked normal. What is it? Nothing, she said quickly. Godzilla looked at him again. The only thing he noticed were his eyes. They were bright red. Godzilla shook his head and looked at Leo. He liked him. His eyes were much prettier than Batra's. They all talked for hours until night fell upon them. Anguirus left and Titanosaurus went to sleep. This is a big-ass cave. Komodo, Leo, and Batra all slept under Mothra's wing. Godzilla curled around Mothra while everyone slept. Mothra stayed up, wondering what would happen to her Batra. I guess Batra's going to become evil or something. She lowered her head and closed her eyes, letting nightmares engulf her. And I think that was a lot for today. So, the next couple chapters are apparently going to be about Batra. They didn't do any big descriptions for Batra, so I feel like Batra might just look like a regular Mothra larva, but with red eyes. Maybe. That seems to be what the story implied, but in my mind I'm going to keep picturing the horned Batra, I guess. But I feel like that's not correct. I feel like it's just a red-eyed Mothra larva. That's it for today. That was 3 chapters. Wow. I wonder how many we even have left. Oh, we're over halfway done. We still have to read Batra, Choosing Sides, The Creature, Mecha Ghidorah, Her Final Stand, Thalia, Dream Battle, and The Final Battle. 8 chapters left. We can probably finish this relatively soon, as long as I don't slack off on it. So that's it. Thank you all very much for your support. Remember, if you want to hear the full song from the beginning, the full parody song, definitely check out our Patreon. Thank you all once again for your support, and I'll see you all later.